Inter and Barcelona are two teams that have fundamentally different tactical philosophies. While Barcelona are all about possession, structured attacks, and an extremely high defensive line, Inter are more focused on defending as a unit, creating quick attacks constantly trying to exploit the space a team leaves at the back. So when these two teams met on the biggest stage, what we got was one of the greatest semi-finals in recent memory. But beneath the chaos and the drama of this match, there was a clear tactical battle unfolding, and in today's video we're going to explore how Inzaghi found the key against Flick. From Inter's disciplined defensive shape and intense pressing in the first half, to the speed and timing with which they committed players forward in transition. But we also need to analyse what went so wrong in the second half, and why one substitution nearly undid all of Inter's hard work. Welcome back to Football Meta. Inzaghi and Flick are currently some of the best managers in European football, both with very clear ideas on how they want to play. And it's safe to say that over these two semi-finals, we got a good glimpse at why their ideas can be so dangerous. But let's start this analysis by taking a look at how Inter dominated the first half and went into the break with a well-deserved lead. To understand this, we need to take a look at how Inter defended, and there were two very distinct phases depending on where Barcelona had possession. The first was from a high press, where Inter adopted a more man-oriented system, mostly with Mkhitaryan pushing further forward to close down De Jong, and the two wing-backs picking up the full-backs. In fact, a 3-5-2 is nearly a perfect counter for any team looking to build in a 4-2-3-1 high up the pitch, as it leads to a pretty linear matchup. This resulted in Barcelona going long relatively frequently from a deep position, but would also look to play out from the back. And it's here where some of the issues emerged during the first half, as Inter were excellent at closing down any player receiving the ball, and when regaining possession they instantly had space to attack forward in behind. And this is exactly what led to the opening goal for Inter. The opportunity came after an excellent spell, able to force Barcelona into long balls and regaining possession high up the pitch. In this moment of transition, the Barcelona midfielder is closed down by the left wing-back Di Marco, who finds Dumfries perfectly in line with the defence and through on goal with Martinez, finding themselves 2v1 against Szczesny. However, because of Inter looking to create chances quickly to beat Barcelona's offside trap, the vast majority of the time Inter were defending in their own half in a very clear 5-3-2 shape. In this situation there were two different approaches on the flanks. On the left, Di Marco was responsible for picking up Yamal, and the wide centre-back Bastoni was ready to absorb any run into the half space or double up if Di Marco needed support on the flank. Whilst on the right, Dumfries was responsible for picking up the more aggressive left-back Gerard Martin, with Rafinha moving more centrally and picked up by either Bissek or Acerbi. This shape did an excellent job at filtering moves through the centre, with the two forwards making sure the first pass would be played out wide, mostly on Barcelona's right flank, where Mkhitaryan would then step out to close down the right-back Eric Garcia. This allowed Inter to not be outnumbered on the flanks and would close down Barcelona in tricky positions. However, Barcelona did find some opportunities by quickly shifting the move from right to left, a pattern that we'll see a lot in the second half. But even on Barcelona's left flank, the more aggressive use of Dumfries proved to be crucial when defending, and is what led to their second goal. Again, Inter's shape forced Barcelona out wide on the flank, and with an intercepted pass, Inter already had players running in behind. This time with Martinez, who was brought down in the box, and Çalhanoğlu made it 2-0 from the spot after a lengthy VAR check. We'll take a look at how Barcelona were able to fight their way back into the game later on in the video, but Inter's defensive shape is arguably why they were so dangerous in the first half. From a position like this, when Inter successfully challenged for the ball, it meant they instantly had players ready to run in behind. But more often than not, they would rotate possession quickly back to Sommer. This would drag Barcelona's press forward, while Inter would quickly fill this space between the lines, with Dumfries also quickly pushing forward on the right flank. This meant that any long balls into this space would be dominated by Inter, with more physical and aggressive players than Barcelona in this position. From here, it was simply a case of trying to beat Barcelona's incredible high line, something which is much easier said than done. Barcelona caught Inter offside 9 times in this match, but were also saved by Szczesny on multiple occasions, quick to step off his line to close down any runner in behind. This shape means any pass in behind Barcelona's defence needs to be perfectly weighted into a very specific space. Too hard and Szczesny will get there first. Wait a fraction too long and the strikers are offside. While the vast majority of the game was played with Barcelona in possession, Inter stuck to their game plan, and that was to create chances quickly and exploit the space behind the defense. Even when Inter was in possession, their build-up was focused on getting players forward quickly. A few times in the first half, Di Marco would rush forward to receive the ball in space, before looking to play it in behind. On other occasions, it was the wide centre-back Bastoni ready to push forward, safe in knowing Yamal would not track back to follow him into midfield. For all their possession in the first half, Barcelona struggled to create clear-cut opportunities. And a lot of that was also down to an excellent defensive performance from Di Marco and Bastoni on the right flank, able to keep Yamal relatively quiet. But all of this changed in the second half, and it's crucially what allowed Barcelona back into the game. In the first half, Eric Garcia was used in a slightly more defensive position, which allowed Mkhitaryan to effectively cover him whilst also not exposing the centre of the pitch too frequently. However, soon into the second half, Garcia started pushing forward more frequently. This meant Yamal could move into a more central position, or at most had more support on the flank, and made life much harder for Di Marco and Bastoni, who now had an extra player to deal with in this position. This is what led to Barcelona's first goal, with play shifting from right to left, and Garcia meeting the cross completely unmarked in the box. But things got much worse for Inter around the 60th minute, and it was a substitution that allowed Barcelona to gain even more control of the pitch. Di Marco was replaced by Carlos Augusto, and suddenly Yamal was not being contained as effectively. Firstly, there was more space for him to run into, with Augusto adopting a more cautious position. And with the more aggressive positioning of Eric Garcia, the right flank started to be dominated more and more by Barcelona. Suddenly, Inter looked to be exhausted. Sommer kept them briefly in the lead after a phenomenal save from Barcelona's counter, but they were soon caught out on the back post with Dani Olmo having a free header. But let me know what you think about this goal. Was Augusto too narrow and should step back to close off the run from Olmo? Or is it Barella that needed to drop into a more central position to intercept the cross? Barcelona's dominance continued for the second half, and Inter struggled to hold on to the ball or create any dangerous opportunities. And eventually Barcelona's pressure paid off, finding the lead through Rafinha after regaining possession high up the pitch once again. It seemed as if this would be the nail in the coffin for Inter, but the centre-back Acerbi being used as the striker in the dying minutes of the game caused chaos at the San Siro, taking the game into extra time. Both teams looked to continue with a similar game plan in extra time, albeit with extremely exhausted players. But it was the physical presence of Inter's front line that proved to be the defining factor, with Thuram fighting past Barcelona's back line from Sommer's goal kick, and Taremi laying off the ball perfectly for Frattesi to finish. Jan Sommer kept Inter in the game on multiple occasions, and even in the last few minutes of extra time was able to deny Yamal with an unbelievable save. It was end-to-end stuff in this Champions League semi-final in what was personally one of the best games I've seen in years. But let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think Inter deserve to go through, and do you think they stand a chance of going all the way? Thanks for watching.